Well, there are very few words to add to what Ruby said, but since we prepared, I guess we'll sing.
Okay.
Welcome to this second Sunday in Advent. We are looking at African American spirituals during Advent. Last week we talked about the spiritual Mary Had a Baby. And this week we're looking at Rise Up, Shepherd, and Follow. There will be opportunities for you to sing throughout. The carols are familiar, the words will be up here. So just pay attention, and Kurt will start to play when we need to sing, right?
I hope so.
When you give them the look.
When I give him the look. The story begins in the book of Luke, chapter 2. In that region, there were shepherds living in the fields, keeping watch over their flocks by night. Then an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. Shepherds, watching, waiting, and wondering. These shepherds are tending flocks right outside Bethlehem on the hillsides. They are most probably flocks that belong to the temple. These are used for sacrifice by the priests. This is a dirty, isolated, lonely job. It's a job no one wants to do, and yet it's vitally important. So the African American slaves in our country identify with this. The jobs they do are not the nice jobs. They're the jobs no one else will do. And if they mess up, they're in big trouble. It's a huge responsibility these shepherds have. And if they mess up, they're probably going to lose their job, where they live, and their way of living. So they wait and watch through the night to keep these sheep safe from predators or thieves. They wait and they watch. And they aren't the only ones waiting and watching in this land. In the East, others are waiting and watching. You've probably heard of them. We go back to the book of Matthew. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we have observed his star at its rising and have come to pay him homage." So on one side we have the lowly shepherds, the people who are despised, the people who are no accounts. They have the worst job in the world. And then we have the kings, the wise men, the astronomers, people who probably serve in the courts. And they have been waiting and watching too. They watch the heavens, they watch the night sky, and their lives and their calendar is ordered around the movement of the stars and the planets. During this time, even Roman officials knew that something different was supposed to be happening. For centuries, they've been waiting for a sign. So these astronomers wait, and they watch, and they wonder.
See to sleep your contemplations bright.
And like all good scholars, as they're wondering, they decide, we've heard about this, let's go search our library. We've heard that this is going to happen. And they find the scrolls of Isaiah. 700 years before, it was written that there would be a sign in the land of Judea. A baby would be born, and a star would mark its birth.
So let's return from Persia back to Judea, back to our shepherds. I'll begin at verse 13 of Luke chapter 2. Suddenly, there was with the angel, remember the angel was the one who announced, there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace among those whom he favors." When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let us go now to Bethlehem and see this thing that has taken place, which the Lord has made known to us." So they went with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the child lying in the manger. The shepherds returned after that, glorifying and praising God for all they had heard and seen as it had been told them. Well, the wise men got a star. I think God figured the angels needed something more, or the shepherds needed something more pronounced. So God provided not just an angel for announcing Christ's birth, but also a choir to sing about it. And that got the shepherds' attention. It definitely got the shepherds' attention. So we're back in Matthew again, and the wise men have journeyed from Persia to Jerusalem. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east, and maybe a wise woman, came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at its rising and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. And they told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet. And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word, so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out. And there ahead of them went the star they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh, very expensive gifts. 3 kings kneeling in a stable next to a feeding trough, a child wrapped in cloth. Shepherds, kings. William Barclay says, when Jesus came, the world was in eagerness of expectation. Men and women were waiting for God, and the desire for God was in their hearts. It was to a waiting world that Jesus came. And when he came, the ends of the earth gathered at his cradle.
When he came, the ends of the earth gathered at his cradle. The lowly shepherd and the king. The African Americans had no problem reconciling these two groups of people. And they sing this song, "There's a star in the east that the king saw, rise up, shepherd, and follow." For them, the liberator, the baby Jesus, the one that would free them from bondage, helped them move from being nobodies to those seeking the wisdom of a new king. No more slave, no more free, no more Gentile, no more Jew, no more king, no more shepherd, no more man, no more woman. All the ends of the earth gathered at the cradle. We sing that song, one bread, one body. Bethlehem means house of bread. The bread of life rests in a manger in the house of bread. The bread of life. So now we're going to sing just a little summary of the story and think about how they all come and they all bow down.
He comes on the glory.
shepherds and the wise men is to worship. They worship differently, but they immediately worship. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all they had heard and seen, as it had been told to them. And the wise men, upon entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh.
Watching, waiting, wondering. Shepherds were wondering when their shift was over. Searching, seeking, and when they find the baby, they worship. But that's not the end of our song. Rise up, shepherd, and follow. Time to rise up and follow, if we dare. First, let's hear how the shepherds followed. When they entered the stable and saw Mary, Joseph, and the child, they made known what had been told them about this child. And all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds told them. They witnessed. First thing the shepherds did was witness. A little bit different for the wise men. Having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. A little bit different for the wise men. The reaction of the shepherds is to go into the community and witness to what they had seen. Cautioned by God not to go back to the king, the reaction of the wise men is to take a different road, back to Persia. What do they have in common? What they have in common is they both took a big risk. They both took a big risk to follow Jesus. The shepherds left their flocks, their livelihood. If they lost the flocks, they lost their job, their place to live, everything. Yet they left their flocks. These are people who nobody ever listened to. Ever. Yet they went back and witnessed. The wise men traveled hundreds of miles. They met with the king. The king gave them instructions, and yet they disobeyed those instructions to return to Persia without alerting the king to the baby's presence. They both took a risk. So I'd like you to pair up and talk to each other. Talk about this. What are you willing to leave behind to find and follow Jesus this Christmas? What are you, scoot together and talk, what are you willing to leave behind to find and follow Jesus this Christmas? Talk among yourselves.
Yeah, we already talked about we're church.
but how difficult it is.
Well, we always talk as a family, it's for trying to let each other know. Like, but we never end up doing that. I'm sorry. I know they were by the heart. What about you guys?
I used to do that when we had children. I mean, we used to, try to surround the tree, we were always away from family. So there always seems to be an extra one under the tree from Santa or whatever. But we don't do that anymore. So Dad and I are very, we might put up a tree, we'll have a really nice dinner with friends, or, and, we'll send something to grandkids. But, Stan, I feel we give on you. Kind of think about really. I can be wrong in that respect. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's Easter's. Yeah, the Christmas spaghetti is very loud. It's very, people that want to stand outside for 12 hours to wait for the Friday thing is like, I always do.
Thank you for having that conversation.
You're very quiet.
Advent is a time of waiting. So, what are we waiting for? What do people wait for?
What do people wait for? Some wait to be noticed. Others wait for folk to forget. They wait to be born. They wait to die. They wait for the train. Seems like we are always waiting.
But during Advent, we don't just wait, we expect. We expect that the poor will be filled with good things, that the oppressed will receive justice, that God will intervene. We dare to expect because we wait on the Lord. And waiting and expectation journey side by side into Advent.
Jesus Christ's truth we seek. Guide our waiting and watching and wondering hearts. Shine in our lives like the beacon that brought the wise ones to your side. And when we find you, may the angel messengers call us to lay down our gifts.
What do people wait for? Some wait to be noticed. Others wait for folk to forget. They wait to be born. They wait to die. They wait for the train. Seems like they're always waiting.
Maybe they're waiting for us. Maybe they're waiting for us to notice their need and respond. Maybe they're waiting for us to forgive and forget the things they did to hurt us. Maybe those who will be born into the world we leave them are waiting for us to realize that they are coming so that we make room. And maybe the ones who are dying simply want someone to hold their hand.
Jesus Christ, truth we seek. As waiting and expectation board the train into Advent, keep us looking for the others who wait.
Amen. Thank you.